You might have thought that I was a mass murderer or something crazy like that because of my childhood interest in forensic files, which involved investigations and clues to try to figure out who did what. Who murdered who? I was reminded of my childhood interest the other night when I stumbled upon a scary-looking house. This house had many windows. Most of these windows had bright lights illuminating within them. This one window, however, demonstrated something very creepy. Its light would turn on and then off, the light would come on and then go off. Sometimes the light would come on, linger, and then come off. It was as if someone was playing with the light switch. Was there someone behind this window? Was someone trying to tell me something? Was I about to die a death by 1,000 cuts? Believe it or not, this haunted house actually reminded me of Google meetings I've had at work. Sometimes my team engages in problem solving and brainstorming sessions. And in these sessions, well, the panels of people equal that haunted house's windows. And the light, or rather darkness, is reflected by that little icon that tells you when someone is muted or not. In these meetings, there can be loud and continuous voices. Those are the bright lights. This one colleague of mine, however, demonstrates a very interesting behavior. This colleague's mute icon will disappear and then reappear. It'll disappear and then reappear. And sometimes it'll go away, no sound will be heard, and then it'll come back. Is my colleague trying to tell us something, but is unable to for some reason? Should I yell? Is there anybody behind this Google Meeting panel? I'm Navdeep, a 26-year-old software engineer on the purchasing infrastructure team. I'm based in the East Coast of the US, and I'm a part of Yelp Cares, a YERG that aims to spread philanthropy at Yelp. When I thought of the value, play well with others, well, I thought of things like embracing community and enjoying each other's time. I brought up Google Meetings. How am I in Google Meetings? What is my participation like in Google Meetings? Well, a while back, I actually thought that I over-contributed in them. I thought that I spoke too much. I thought that I was taking over the space of other people. I brought this up to my manager, and my manager's feedback was a little surprising. My manager said that he did not see it that way. He did not believe I was over-contributing. I think it might be because we might not have been in the same meetings where he got to observe my interrupting, but in any case, I felt like I was over-contributing anyway. The colleague that I described earlier, who presented that interesting unmute-mute behavior, does this colleague feel the same way that I did? Does my colleague think that they're over-contributing sometimes? Do they think that their contributions are not valuable and might not be heard? Is this colleague afraid of being rejected when presenting ideas? Let me add another layer to this. This colleague is a woman. And no, I'm not saying that women are incapable. I'm taking this in a different direction. My team is a team of 10 to 11 software developers, 80 to 90% of which are male. We're led by a white male manager. My colleague is one of 2 women, and I have personally witnessed this colleague experiencing interruption in Google Meetings. In a Google Meeting, my colleague might be sharing an idea or sharing something, and then be not so subtly interrupted by a male colleague. The University of Michigan would call this phenomenon a man-terruption. And a man-terruption is when a woman is sharing something and is interrupted by a man when it is not necessary. And these man-terruptions can feel like rejection, and let me tell you, I have a lot of experience with rejection. When I was younger, I would sometimes bring home-cooked food that my mom made with me to school or wherever it was, only to face ridicule from my peers. Maybe the food was too aromatic for them. Maybe it was too weird or strange. Whatever the reason, whatever they said, they made me want to not bring that food with me. As an adult, I still face rejection. I picked up bachata dancing earlier this year in January 2024, and I believe that my skill has increased greatly. But I feel as though during dance events, it feels like I'm getting rejected more than I'm actually dancing. Rejection can make me hesitate to ask more people to dance. And sometimes it's like, how many rejections does it take for me to quit dancing altogether? How many rejections does it take for someone to quit speaking up in the workplace? That's what my colleague's facing. When I presented this story in Yelp's internal Story Slam session, It was Women's History Month, which was an opportunity for people like me to think and consider how to be better male allies. I think back to a previous tech lead of mine, who I believe demonstrated extremely wonderful behavior. This tech lead would essentially pause conversations and actively invite this colleague of mine into the conversation. I don't know exactly why he did this. Maybe he saw that unmute mute behavior. Maybe he's witnessed the man interruptions. Whatever reason or reasoning he had, he did an excellent job at actively inviting and engaging this colleague and genuinely considering her contributions. This was an excellent example of male allyship, and I found it to be inspirational. So inspirational that I've actually tried to emulate it myself. In Google Meetings, sometimes when I see my colleague demonstrate that unmute mute behavior, I might make a mental note and then later in the conversation say something like, "Hey, colleague's name here. Did you want to say something?" And that brings us to the big three: diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Diversity is, well, in a Google Meeting setting, when you're allowed to join a meeting and you get your panel, you're on the screen. Inclusion is when you are allowed to unmute yourself and talk. Belonging is when your voice is actually heard. Like I said in the beginning, you might have thought I was a mass murderer or something crazy like that. But even if I was, in settings like the ones I described earlier, I don't want the lights to be off. Let's keep the lights on. And maybe you can be the reason why someone keeps their light on.